In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some off-season trade talk involving the Calgary Flames and the Ottawa Senators. We were signing in Edmonton. We have some injury updates and some very interesting results on the latest annual survey by the NHLPA to all the players regarding different things around the league, involving some top players, off-ice things as well. We'll discuss all the latest coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. I do apologize if my voice is a little raspy or a little sounding different. I am battling a cold, so definitely have a bit of a sore throat, but we're trying to keep up here with it, keeping content fresh on the channel. So certainly, like I said, if I'm sounding different, that is why. Hopefully this will go away here over the next couple of days. We do have a signing I'm going to start with Edmonton. We have them signing an interesting prospect, and that's Carl Berglund, who's a center and a winger. He's 23 years old, Swedish background, an undrafted player. Gets a 2-year entry-level contract because of his age, being a little bit older. Starts next season. He will be able to sign an amateur tryout and play in the American Hockey League to finish out this current season. He played a full 4 years of U.S. college hockey at UMass Lowell. Looks like a very interesting, of course, more mature prospect. So we'll see how Berglund makes the jump and adoption here to pro hockey. But certainly another interesting college free agent signing here by Edmonton. Few updates in the injury world. The Montreal Canadiens announced a young defenseman, Caden Gooley, will be out for the rest of the regular season due to a high ankle sprain. It was believed he was already dealing with multiple injuries, different knee or something like that going on. I believe he was wearing a brace on both legs, I believe, to try to play through the remaining games of the season, but just unable to keep going here. So for Caden Gooley, his season will come to an end. He'll be shut down and he'll have plenty of time to heal. Like I said, those high ankle sprains can take a really long time. They usually say about 6 weeks, but listening to some former players and current players that have dealt with this before, a lot of them have said it can be several months, sometimes close to a year, before that leg and ankle feel completely normal again. So certainly in his best interest to start the healing process now, so he has obviously time to get better for next year. The Vegas Golden Knights have activated goaltender Logan Thompson. Obviously, lots of question marks on the Golden Knights goaltending situation going into the season, and it kind of popped up throughout the year as well. I mean, Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill have both performed well, but at the same time, they both dealt with injuries. They picked up Jonathan Quick, who's been phenomenal since coming over. He really found his game. Obviously, we know he was very upset after being traded from LA, and it's kind of shown that he's ready to take those frustrations out on the opponents of the Golden Knights and putting up some fantastic numbers, well on his way to being crowned, through stats at least, the most successful American-born goaltender in NHL history, which is not too far off the mark for him. I know he's closing in on some key records set by former Sabres goalie Ryan Miller, and he'll likely achieve that, whether it be this year or next. So good on Quick for that. But Thompson, the back, will just make the Golden Knights even stronger, having more depth in the goalie position, and the St. Louis Blues were also able to activate youngster Jake Neighbors, who's been out for a period of time as well. So they get him back, which will be nice as they try to finish out their season on a strong suit here. As I mentioned as well, we have some interesting results from the NHLPA survey. They do this every single season, usually about 14, 15 questions, a lot of which are about some of the game's top players, and some of it is about off-ice stuff as well. Some very interesting results here, so I want to go through how the players voted. When it comes to the game's most complete player, they voted for the second year in a row. That was Captain Sidney Crosby. Patrice Bergeron was number 2. I know when I think of the game's most complete players, oftentimes Bergeron is the first that kind of comes to mind, but a lot of times I think Crosby's been kind of overlooked for how good he is at both ends of the ice and just being, such a well-rounded player. Even at his age and, the experience level he has, he's still putting up phenomenal stats, competing really hard, and is still really, solid all around in all aspects of the game here. One question that they voted on as well was, you need to win one game. What goal do you need between the pipes? And the overwhelming response was Lightning goalie Andrei Vasilevsky with 52% of the vote. I mean, lots of other goalies like Sorokin, Shesterkin, Hellebuck. I think there's a few others get a few votes, but nothing anywhere near the amount of votes that Vasilevsky did. So that's overwhelming. But considering how clutch he's been in the playoffs, multiple Stanley Cups to his name, it does not come as a surprise that he was at the very top of this list. Another category was must-win game situation. What impactful forward do you need to have on your team? And the overwhelming answer there was Connor McDavid. Lots of the other games, top young forwards and top stars, including McKinnon, Pasternak, Draisaitl, a few others were also getting some love in that category as well, but McDavid had by far the most and was the winner of that category. Of course, he's arguably the game's top player by far, best player in the world right now, and certainly no doubt that he won this. It was interesting to hear McDavid be asked about international hockey and how much it's needed in the NHL community here soon. Obviously, it's been a long time since the NHL players have been able to play in a best-on-best type of international tournament. And of course, with the World Baseball Classic wrapping up, and the cool moment we've seen in the game between the USA and Japan with Ohtani and Trout, it's gotten a lot of attention. Two guys that are teammates in the MLB going head-to-head in a key moment of the championship game in the World Baseball Classic. That's what we want as sports fans. You want to see the best take on the best at every level, and the international competition has been lacking with lack of Olympic participation and all that. So the NHL really needs to get their act together and figure out a World Cup or something. McDavid was speaking about it today and saying how important it is. So hopefully they kind of hear that and make sure it's even more of a priority. I know we're talking about likely 2025 being the target date now. I know the IIHF also extended its ban on Russia and Belarus for participating in international tournaments for another year as well, saying they still don't feel it's safe for that to go back to the way it was. So, I know that was a big part of the reason why the NHL delayed the World Cup. And, it's such an unfortunate thing. We need to get this. It's really important, I think, for the entertainment, for the fans, and for some of these guys to be able to compete in tournaments for their countries. It's very high on the priority list for sure. But back to the awards, the top defenseman, according to the players in the NHL, is Avalanche Cale Makar. No doubt, with 63% on the vote. Makar, overwhelming favorite here. I know Erik Karlsson having a phenomenal year, might win a Norris Trophy, but according to their peers, Makar is by far the top guy. Another award was Best Stick Handler, and that's Patrick Kane of the New York Rangers. It still sounds weird to say after that whole, career in Chicago, but Patrick Kane, again, voted as this. This is not a surprise. He's been an incredible stick handler and the puck skills that he has his whole career. Kane certainly well deserving of that. One award as well was Best Passer, and that was Oilers forward Leon Draisaitl. Of course, Draisaitl is a double threat, both as a sniper and as a the playmaker setup kind of guy as well. Certainly one of the league's best passers for sure. Not a surprise that he wins this award. One what I thought was very interesting as well as the player that you least enjoy playing against, and that was by a pretty good margin, Bruins forward Brad Marchand. I thought it might be a guy like a Matthew Tkachuk. Tkachuk did have some votes, but he was not really all that far up the list. Like, he was nowhere near the percentage of votes that Marchand had. Even at his age and everything, he's still, not somebody that you want to play against. I believe the other part of this question was someone that you don't like to play against, but that you'd love to have on your team. And obviously with his level of skill, he can put up a lot of goals and points and be, impactful in that way too. Plus, if you don't have to play against him and deal with all the other stuff, it's even better. But certainly interesting there. One category as well was a defenseman or a forward who affects the game the most around the net, and that was the Stars forward Joe Pavelski, who, again, probably the best in the NHL when it comes to tipping pucks. He's really good at deflections, has been his whole career, and not a big surprise there. The most underrated player went to Panthers captain Sasha Barkov, who just recently became the all-time leader in points for Panthers in franchise history. Of course, passing former teammate and line mate Jonathan Huberdeau, who was just traded this past offseason. So, again, a franchise was done on a super deep history. Guys that have been there for like a decade plus. It's not a shock that they're hitting these categories and taking over these, key stats. But obviously for Barkov, it's still quite a big accomplishment. But Barkov, to me, I understand that a lot of people feel he's underrated, but to me, he's been in conversations enough now for NHL awards and things that I'm not really sure that he's as underrated as some people think he is, but I do understand that he's probably still flying under the radar a little bit based on where he plays. One question the guys were asked as well, the players, is which female player would you like the most play with if you had a chance to play with one of them, of course, on your team? And the overwhelming favorite there was Marie-Philippe Poulin, of course, captain clutch of Team Canada, scores big goals, especially over time. Arguably one of the best, if not the best, female player currently today. Hillary Knight of the U.S. obviously got a lot of votes as well. So interesting there. Another one is so off-ice stuff. Which rink in the NHL has the best ice? And that was voted the Bell Center in Montreal. I believe the other top 2 or 3 spots were all in Canadian spots as well. I believe Winnipeg and Vancouver, I think it was, were right near the top of the list as well. But the Bell Center, according to the players, has the best ice. So that's interesting as well. One of them, another question, best NHL road city. This won't come as any surprise. Vegas. I'm surprised Nashville was as low as it was. Nashville didn't get a lot of love. I know it used to be one of the most favored road cities as well. And another one too as well was the best locker room guy. So somebody who's great as a teammate and great to fun around, in the locker room. And Marc-Andre Fleury was getting that award. Not a shocker there. He seems to be a real comical guy, great team guy. One of the most liked and well-respected players for around the entire league. So overall, those are the full results, at least for the ones I found interesting enough to talk about here from the NHLPA survey. Now, on a trade talk for today, I do want to touch on the Calgary Flames. A couple of days ago, we talked about how players like Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau had expressed frustration levels, or at least it was believed to at least be behind the scenes based on reports from Elliot Friedman and the agent of Huberdeau, Alan Walsh, who put some information out earlier this year. But there was also more information on the Flames podcast called the Barn Burner podcast. One of the guys on there, of course, is Warner and Boomer. And Boomer was on the site here, and I'll show you a quick clip in here of the quote. It says that this goes beyond Elliot Friedman's report. I'm hearing some players are basically saying, I'm not coming back if this guy is behind the bench. I'm effing done. So that's pretty, serious stuff. So obviously some of these guys are going to have, new contracts that they need to negotiate. They could ask for trades. It sounds like there's a real locker room problem within the Flames organization, and it largely seems to do with the fact that they're frustrated with the coach and the communication from the coach, and they're just not digging Daryl Sutter and his ways right now. There's been numerous situations this year that seems to be very frustrating to the players, and it's not getting any better. The Calgary Flames are in serious danger of missing the playoffs. It's not looking good for them right now. And as I said before, it's not just a case of them, maybe making a trade or two this summer because of missing the playoffs and not having the right mix, but it could be the second year in a row for them, or they could have a lot of attention on them, a lot of drama. Obviously, last year they dealt with the Johnny Gaudreau, free agency, and Matthew Tkachuk basically forcing his way out of there via trade. And now they could be in the same scenario where some of the veteran guys might not want to come back. It might be looking to be dealt as well. Brad Treliving doesn't even have a contract beyond the end of the season, so we don't know what his status is. Sutter does have a little bit of term because he was given a 2-year extension last offseason, so he still has some time left. But at the end of the day here, this is going to be a real tough scenario for the Calgary Flames. Like, I seriously wonder if some of these guys could be on the move now. Guys like Kadri and Huberdeau, they're obviously underperforming right now. Their stats are nowhere near what they've been in the past. They both signed long-term, big money, lucrative deals. So even if they wanted to be traded, you wonder what their value is. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, because you never say never in the NHL, but I wonder how hesitant teams would be to pick up these guys. I mean, obviously, it's a big adjustment going to a new team, new teammates, but you usually see star players figuring out a way to make it work. Look at Matthew Tkachuk in Calgary and leaving Calgary going to Florida. He's put that team on his back and is, probably going to be in the top 3, 4, 5 when it comes to Hart Trophy voting. I mean, McDavid, I think, has got that all sewn up, but he's going to be in that conversation. Meanwhile, Huberdeau is, not thriving in the least in Calgary. He's played as off wing most of the year, just not getting the love from the coach, not really being put in a position to succeed, in my opinion, which is really unfortunate. So it's hard to say if it would be the newcomers that would be shipped out or a combination of some of the other veteran guys that have been around that might be moved out inside. Either way, I think changes are coming to Calgary. They could be substantial. It could be in the front office. It could be behind the bench. It could be the players as well. And it could be a combination of all that. And I really wonder what we're going to see here, because it's going to be like a domino effect, I think, once the season ends. But look for Calgary to, again, for the second year in a row, to be one of the most interesting teams to watch this offseason for changes that we might see. Now on to the Ottawa Senators. There's a lot of talk around a couple of things with them. One, the big topic is Alex DeBrincat. A lot of people wondering what his future holds. Obviously, they gave up a first rounder and some other picks, 3 in total, to acquire him from Chicago, and he hasn't had the greatest season. Now, overall, I think you could say Alex DeBrincat is one of the most unlucky players in the NHL this season. Trust me when I tell you that I watched every Senators game this year. Alex DeBrincat has had a lot of opportunities not go in. Like, if you take a look at his play and his stats, he's generating plenty. They're not going in like they have for him in the past. Of course, he's had some 40-goal seasons, but he's also had some other years where things have been a little bit lower. He's on a new team with new line mates. The center that he was supposed to play with, Josh Norris, has been hurt since game 5 or 6 of the season. So that didn't help matters as well. Obviously, there's been times where he hasn't been, playing with the players that they were expecting him to play with. He's due a $9 million qualifying offer, and even though a lot of players on that team are having big breakout seasons like Kachuk and Stützle and a few others, DeBrincat's numbers aren't where they need to be for a $9 million player. So there's some wonder, are they going to end up paying him? Does he want to stay? I don't know what the future holds for him, but I can't imagine that Ottawa has any regrets at this point. He is a proven scorer. I think they like the way he's played this year. You can factor in the injuries and the missing pieces that he has not had a chance to play with, and I don't have any doubts that they're still committed to signing him on a longer-term basis. One of the reasons why contract negotiations haven't really picked up either is that the Sens have made it clear that before they do another long-term lucrative deal, because the team is going through a sale process right now, that they do want to wait until the new ownership is in place so that they can be part of that, signing off on any more additional contracts or money that's going to be spent on player personnel. That just makes sense, not a surprise in the least. Pierre Dorion has made lots of moves this year. They've addressed their defense. They've addressed their forward group. And now they need to address goaltending as well. So it's not just the DeBrincat contract. Goaltending is a big question moving forward. There's no doubt, listening to recent Sens media discussing that scenario, it's by far the position they need to focus on the most coming up next. I mean, Matt Auger has proven that he can be a good goalie of the future, but it's also clear that he's not ready for full-time duty here as of yet. I expect Anton Forsberg will be back next year, hopefully back to what he was. He was a pretty good goaltender in a tandem situation, but again, not a goalie I don't think you could run with without having another proven guy to work with him. So I do expect them to hit the goalie trade market for the second year in a row. I don't think Cam Talbot will be back. At this point, Philip Gustafsson, who they traded for Talbot, is thriving in Minnesota. They would have loved to have seen that in Ottawa, but after a couple of years, they were not seeing that, which is why they traded him, which is unfortunate. And now they're going to go back into the goalie market again. I do wonder if a guy like Carter Hart in Philadelphia, who is supposed to be likely made available by the Flyers as they go down this rebuild path under new GM Danny Briere, if he could be a guy that they take a look at, that would make sense. And there's also some speculation that now that they've got Devin Levi in the fold and they've got some other goalies too, that the Sabres might be willing to entertain trade conversations around Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. So we'll have to see where that goes. Now that's the same division. Two teams kind of go, both kind of, rebuilding the last number of years. They're competing with each other to take that next step and move up in the division. I don't know if the Sabres would really want to trade anybody that could have that potential to the Senators. That might be an unlikely scenario just given the division rivalry. But Hart for sure makes a lot of sense. And there's other goalies out there that could make sense as well. But certainly look for Alex DeBrincat in the future of him in the contract, as well as Sens goaltending, to be the main two areas you expect to see that team deal with as their season will likely wind up soon. And they should be probably going to end up with most likely just missing the playoffs by a small margin, which is, still a step forward based on what we've seen before. And they need to continue taking that a step forward for next year and beyond. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.